On the bridge of the Crixalor flagship, orbiting the war-scarred planet of Xanthir, Commander Thrax assembled his elite unit. The air hummed with tension as the crew awaited the briefing on their next critical mission. Commander Thrax, a towering figure clad in dark armor, addressed the room. "Soldiers, our empire stands on the brink of a discovery that could end our struggles for supremacy," he began, his voice booming across the silent bridge. "Intelligence reports have identified a weapon of unimaginable power, hidden on a distant planet called Earth. Its codename, Human." Varkas, a seasoned warrior known for his strategic mind and unmatched combat skills, stepped forward, his eyes narrowing with interest. "Commander, what exactly do we know about this weapon?" "Very little," Thrax admitted, flicking a switch that projected images of Earth and human civilizations onto the screen. "But rumors suggest it's not a mere device, but a being, or beings, capable of immense power. Your mission, Varkas, is to infiltrate Earth, locate the human, and assess if it can be turned to our advantage." Lieutenant Drass, another member of the team, chimed in, his skeptical tone cutting through the murmured discussions of his comrades. "And how are we to blend in? Humans are notoriously sensitive to non-human presences." Thrax nodded to a scientist standing by a console. "Dr. Silex will answer that." Dr. Silex, a lean figure with sharp eyes, stepped up. "We've developed a morphogenic layer that will disguise your appearance. You'll look, sound, and even bleed like a human." He handed Varkas a small, metallic device. "This is your translator, communicator, and data collector all in one. Keep it with you at all times." Varkas examined the device, then tucked it away securely. "What about extraction?" "You will signal us upon securing the target. Extraction will follow within hours," Thrax explained. "Remember, this mission is covert. Avoid unnecessary conflicts, gather intelligence, and return. The fate of our empire might well depend on what you learn." A gruff voice from the back called out, "What if the humans resist? What if this weapon chooses to fight us?" Varkas turned to face the speaker, his gaze firm. "Then we engage with extreme caution. We are not there to start a war, but to prevent our extinction. Every action must be calculated." The room fell silent, the weight of their task settling on each soldier's shoulders. Thrax gave a final nod. "Prepare for departure in 2 hours. Varkas, I trust you with the command on the ground. Do not fail us." As the meeting adjourned, Varkas pulled Drass aside. "I need your eyes sharp and your mind sharper. We're walking into the unknown, and I'll need every bit of your expertise on human behavior." Drass nodded, a wry smile playing on his lips. "After all the simulations and studies, it'll be fascinating to see real humans in their natural habitat." Varkas clapped him on the shoulder. "Stay focused. If we do this right, we might just bring peace to our people. Let's gear up." Together, the team headed to the armory, their steps resolute. The mission was perilous, the objective unclear, but the determination to succeed burned brightly within each of them. As their ship coursed through the stars towards Earth, Varkas pondered the true nature of human. What power did it hold? And more importantly, could it truly be the key to ending the relentless wars that had consumed their galaxy? Only time would tell. The Earth loomed large and vibrant as Varkas's stealth shuttle penetrated the atmosphere, cloaked against human detection systems. The view was stunning, a swirling canvas of blues, greens, and whites, unlike anything back home on Crixalor. "Initiating atmospheric entry," Varkas announced calmly, adjusting the controls as the shuttle shook mildly from turbulence. Beside him, Drass monitored the various readouts, ensuring their cloak remained functional. "Energy levels are stable. Human radar systems are still blind to us," Drass reported, his voice tinged with relief. Varkas nodded, focusing on his landing trajectory. "Set us down near that cluster of structures on the outskirts. We'll blend in better there." The shuttle descended smoothly into a secluded area just outside a small American town, camouflaged by thick forests. The doors hissed open, and the cool, fresh air of Earth filled their lungs, an alien planet, now their covert battlefield. "Remember, the morphogenic layer will adjust as soon as we step out. Keep your guard up and stay in character," Varkas reminded Drass as they disguised themselves as typical Earth civilians. Dressed in jeans and a jacket, Varkas examined his reflection in a small mirror. His features were now completely human, with short brown hair and a slight beard. Drass, on the other hand, appeared younger, with blonde hair and an athletic build. They looked like countless others they had studied in their mission prep. "Feels strange, this flesh suit," Drass muttered, moving his limbs experimentally. "Focus on the mission, not the discomfort," Varkas retorted, checking their equipment one last time. They locked up the shuttle and activated its security protocols before heading into town on foot. The human world was bustling, a stark contrast to the regimented and war-torn society of Crixalor. People went about their daily lives, oblivious to the alien presence among them. Their first task was to gather information. Varkas led Drass to a small cafe, a perfect spot for observation and eavesdropping. They ordered coffee, another new experience, and took a table near the window. "Look at them, Varkas. They know nothing of constant war, of fear," Drass observed quietly, sipping his coffee with an intrigued expression. "Which might be why they're so dangerous," Varkas replied thoughtfully. "They have something to fight for, something more than survival. We must understand this if we are to find human." Their conversation was interrupted by a news broadcast on the cafe's television. The reporter spoke of a local hero, John Carter, a retired military officer who had recently thwarted a robbery with surprising skill and bravery. "That's our mark," Varkas concluded, his instincts kicking in. "A human of such capability could be what we're looking for." They spent the next few hours tracking down John Carter's address, learning his routines. The retired officer lived alone, was well respected in the community, and, according to neighbors, a real patriot. As dusk fell, they positioned themselves near his home, waiting for the opportunity to approach him under less conspicuous circumstances. "We need to assess if he's the weapon or connected to it. Remember subtlety," Varkas instructed Drass, as they watched Carter return home. "Understood," Drass nodded, his face set in determination. Their mission on Earth had begun in earnest, and both Varkas and Drass knew the stakes could not be higher. Finding human was their goal, but understanding humanity itself might be the real challenge. Varkas and Drass monitored John Carter's movements for several days, analyzing his routines and interactions with uncanny precision. Their alien technology enabled them to stay hidden, observing Carter from a distance without detection. Each day added layers to their understanding of the man they suspected might be the human weapon. His military training is evident. He's disciplined, vigilant, and has a strong sense of duty, Drass commented as they watched Carter from their camouflaged position across the street. "Yes, but there's more to him. See how he interacts with his neighbors, with children. There's kindness there," Varkas noted, his voice tinged with respect. "Not just a soldier then, but a leader, perhaps even a symbol." One sunny afternoon, as Carter worked in his yard, Varkas decided it was time to initiate contact. He walked confidently across the street, dressed in the casual earth attire they had grown accustomed to wearing. "Excuse me, sir," Varkas called out as he approached Carter, who looked up with a guarded expression. "I couldn't help but admire your garden. I'm new to the area and was hoping for some tips." Carter's posture relaxed slightly, and a friendly smile broke across his face. "Well, thank you, I'm John. Gardening is a bit of a hobby of mine. What's your name?" "Victor," Varkas replied, using his alias. "I just moved in not far from here." The two men chatted about mundane things, gardening, the weather, and local sports teams. Carter was open and amiable, yet Varkas could sense the underlying steel in the man, honed by years of military discipline. As they talked, a neighbor's cat darted across the street, narrowly escaping an oncoming car. Without thinking, Varkas's alien reflexes kicked in, and he moved with unnatural speed to save the animal. Carter's eyes widened in surprise. "That was quite the save. You've got some reflexes there, Victor." Varkas smiled awkwardly, realizing his mistake. "Old habits from my younger days, I guess." Their conversation continued for a few more minutes before Varkas excused himself, feeling the weight of Carter's suspicious gaze on him as he walked away. The encounter had revealed valuable insights, but also raised the stakes. Back in their hidden observation spot, Drass looked concerned. "You exposed us. He saw something." "I know," Varkas admitted, frustrated with his lapse. "But we might use this. He's intrigued now, not alarmed. We continue to monitor and wait for the next opportunity to learn more. The following day brought that opportunity. As Carter visited the local grocery store, Varkas arranged another coincidental meeting. This time, the conversation shifted subtly towards more serious topics. "You seem to have seen a lot, John," Varkas prodded gently as they browsed the aisles. Carter's face darkened with memories. "I've served my country, seen things I wish I hadn't. You learn a lot about yourself and others in tough times." "Do you ever wish you could change some of those things you've seen?" Varkas asked, probing the moral and ethical boundaries Carter lived by. "Every day. But we can only move forward, make the best with what we've got," Carter replied, his voice heavy with resignation. Their dialogue deepened, with Carter unknowingly providing Varkas with the depth of understanding he needed. The retired soldier spoke of duty, sacrifice, and the toll it took on those who served. Varkas listened intently, his mission parameters expanding beyond simple observation. As they parted ways again, Varkas felt a mixture of admiration and doubt. Was Carter truly the weapon? Or was he merely a piece of a larger puzzle, yet to be understood? Varkas and Drass continued their surveillance with renewed focus, each interaction weaving a complex tapestry of military prowess and human empathy, a combination potentially worthy of the title human. After their encounters with John Carter, Varkas and Drass became more cautious. Their mission had taken on a new layer. Carter was no ordinary human, and his potential as the human weapon seemed ever more plausible. The pair decided it was time to deepen their investigation, starting with a closer examination of Carter's past and any connections he might have that could unveil the nature of the human weapon. Back in their secluded base, Drass worked on hacking into various secure databases, searching for any military records, associations, or undisclosed projects that Carter might be linked to. "There's a lot here about his service, commendations, high-stress missions, leadership roles, but nothing that screams secret weapon," Drass reported, frustration evident in his voice. Meanwhile, Varkas focused on physical surveillance, embedding himself deeper within the community. He attended local gatherings and visited places Carter frequented, always keeping an eye out for any signs of unusual behavior or capabilities. Despite his efforts, Carter appeared to be nothing more than a highly respected former soldier. However, their presence did not go unnoticed. The local FBI field office had started picking up on the anomalies, unexplained data breaches, sightings of men with exceptional abilities, and reports from locals about the new, peculiar residents. Agent Sarah Michaels, tasked with investigating these anomalies, had begun putting pieces together. Surveillance footage, witness statements, and a growing unease led her to keep a closer watch on the so-called Victor and his friend, whom the locals had seen only sporadically. One afternoon, as Varkas shadowed Carter from a coffee shop, he sensed he was not the only one observing. A subtle reflection, a misplaced glance. He caught sight of Agent Michaels watching him from across the street. Her attention was split between Carter and himself, her suspicion palpable even from a distance. Varkas reported this new development to Drass. "We need to be more careful. The authorities are onto us. It's only a matter of time before they make a move," he warned, his voice low. Drass nodded, a plan already forming. "We need a diversion, something to throw them off while we continue with Carter. Perhaps a small-scale cyber incident far from here, to redirect their resources." Varkas agreed, and Drass set to work. Later that evening, a minor but mysterious cyber attack hit the city's electrical grid on the opposite side of town. As expected, FBI resources were diverted to handle what appeared to be a significant threat. With the FBI momentarily distracted, Varkas and Drass took the opportunity to approach Carter directly at his home. They needed to determine once and for all if he was indeed part of the weapon they sought or had knowledge of it. Knocking on Carter's door, Varkas felt a rush of adrenaline. The door swung open and Carter greeted them with a guarded look. "Victor, this is a surprise. And you brought a friend?" His voice carried a hint of suspicion. "Yes, John, this is my colleague James. We were in the area and thought to stop by. Maybe you could share more about your military experiences." "We find them quite fascinating," Varkas ventured, stepping into the foyer. Carter eyed them both, then stepped aside, allowing them in. "Sure, I don't see why not, but you'll have to excuse me if I seem a bit cautious. You understand, given my background." As they settled in the living room, Varkas and Dras exchanged a glance. This was their chance to find out everything they needed. But they were also playing a dangerous game, one that could expose them completely or finally lead them to understand the true nature of human. John Carter led Varkas and Dras into his modest living room, a space adorned with military memorabilia and photos of people who seemed important to him. He offered them seats and sat down, adopting a posture that was both relaxed and alert, indicative of his military training. "So what specifically interests you about my service?" Carter asked, his gaze sharp. Varkas chose his words carefully, trying to probe without revealing too much. "We're particularly interested in any specialized units or projects you might have been involved with. Stories of exceptional missions, perhaps?" Carter chuckled softly, his demeanor easing slightly. "I've had my share of covert operations, sure, but nothing that would qualify as extraordinary by your likely standards." Varkas sensed an opportunity to dig deeper and shifted the conversation subtly towards the extraordinary. "But there are always those missions that test our limits, aren't there? The ones that change how we see the world?" Carter's expression grew distant, reflective. He leaned back, eyes unfocusing as if viewing a private panorama of the past. "There was one operation, not officially recorded. We were tasked with extracting a high-value individual from a hostile area. It wasn't the mission itself, but the person we extracted. Never seen anyone with abilities like his. Made me realize sometimes, the real weapon isn't what we carry, it's what we are." Varkas and Dras exchanged a quick, discreet look. This was closer to what they were searching for. "What kind of abilities?" Dras asked, his curiosity barely contained. "Not physical, more mental. He could influence people, calm a tense situation with just a few words or even just his presence." "It was uncanny," Carter explained, his voice filled with a mixture of admiration and unease. Varkas probed further, intrigued. "Sounds like a powerful ally. Is he still around? Someone like that could be a valuable contact." Carter sighed, a note of sadness threading through his tone. "Disappeared after the mission. Some say he went back to his country. Others think he went off the grid entirely. Why the interest?" Realizing they were treading on delicate ground, Varkas steered the conversation back to safer waters. "Just wondering about the types of people who make a difference. The ones who aren't just soldiers, but something more." The conversation continued for a while, moving away from sensitive topics. Eventually, Carter excused himself to make tea, leaving Varkas and Dras alone for a moment. Dras whispered urgently, "This could be it, Varkas, not Carter, but someone like him. Maybe this is what they meant by human." Varkas nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps the weapon isn't a single person, but a capability or potential within humans. We need to report this." Before they could continue, Carter returned with the tea. The rest of the evening passed with lighter conversation, though the wheels in Varkas's mind didn't stop turning. As they left Carter's house under the guise of night, Varkas felt a profound shift in their mission. "We've been looking at this all wrong," he said to Dras as they walked back to their base. "It's not about finding a weapon to wield. It's about understanding what makes someone powerful. It's their humanity, their ability to influence, to lead." Dras looked over, a realization dawning in his eyes. "So, the mission?" "The mission changes," Varkas decided. "We need to protect this potential, not exploit it. Let's prepare to communicate our findings. We need to convince our superiors that what we found is too valuable to be weaponized in the conventional sense." Back at their base, Varkas drafted a detailed report, not just on what they had learned, but on his new understanding of what truly made Earth and its inhabitants formidable. As he encoded the message to send back to Crixalor, he knew they were on the brink of a significant discovery, one that could change the course of their people's approach to the war and beyond. Under the cover of Earth's night, Varkas and Dras huddled in their makeshift command center, a converted basement of an abandoned farmhouse just outside the town. Screens lit up their faces with a soft glow as they finalized the report detailing their new understanding of the human weapon. It was not a person or a weapon in the traditional sense, but the potential within humanity itself, a potential for great influence and leadership. "Sending this report will change everything," Drass muttered, uncertainty coloring his tone. Varkas nodded solemnly. "It's a risk, but it's the right thing to do. Our leaders must understand that what we've discovered here cannot be weaponized or controlled. It must be respected." With the report sent, the two aliens settled into an uneasy wait for a response. Days passed with no word from Crixalor. Tensions rose, but Varkas used the time to deepen his observations of human interactions, further solidifying his belief in their newfound mission to protect humanity's unique qualities rather than exploit them. Meanwhile, Agent Michaels had not been idle. Her investigations had grown more pointed, her surveillance more intense. One afternoon, while Varkas was walking through the town square, a seemingly random encounter placed him directly in her path. "Mr. Victor, isn't it?" Agent Michaels approached him, her eyes sharp and probing. "We keep running into each other. A bit too often for coincidence, don't you think?" Varkas maintained his composure, offering a friendly smile. "It's a small town, Agent Michaels. I'm surprised we don't run into each other more often." Michaels nodded, though her expression remained skeptical. "Perhaps. Or perhaps there's more to you and your friend than meets the eye. Care to explain why you're so interested in John Carter?" Choosing his words carefully, Varkas responded, "He's an admirable man, and as someone new in town, I'm just trying to make connections, learn from the best." Her eyes narrowed slightly, but before she could press further, Varkas's communicator vibrated discreetly. Excusing himself with an apologetic smile, he stepped away to read the incoming message, a directive from Crixalor acknowledging his report and instructing him to continue his observations, but to avoid any actions that could lead to conflict. Relieved yet cautious, Varkas returned to Drass, who was waiting anxiously at their base. "They've received our report and want us to proceed carefully. No aggressive moves," Varkas relayed. "That's good, isn't it?" Drass asked, though his voice lacked conviction. "It's a start," Varkas admitted, "but we're still walking a tightrope here. We need to prepare for any scenario, including the possibility of having to defend our position against our own people." Determined to avoid any further suspicions and keep their mission discreet, Varkas proposed a bold move. "We need to show our superiors the true value of humanity's potential, not just as a report but in action. We'll orchestrate a scenario where Carter's unique abilities can be observed directly by our command." Drass was hesitant, but saw the logic in Varkas's plan. "It could work, but it's risky. If we expose ourselves, we do it carefully, controlled. We make sure the only thing our superiors see is what they need to see." Over the next few weeks, Varkas and Drass carefully planned a demonstration. They used their technology to simulate a crisis situation where Carter's skills would be necessary, inviting covert surveillance from Crixalor. As the day of the demonstration approached, everything was set. Carter, unknowingly the centerpiece of this critical demonstration, would soon show the Crixalor commanders the power of humanity's influence, a power that Varkas hoped would change the course of their intentions towards Earth forever. The planned demonstration was set on a brisk, clear morning. Varkas and Drass had staged a crisis scenario, a hostage situation in a local bank, using holographic technology to create convincing but harmless images of armed perpetrators and frightened civilians. The entire setup was designed to showcase John Carter's negotiation and leadership skills under pressure. As Carter walked into the bank for what he believed was a routine visit, he found himself thrust into the staged crisis. Reacting with calm precision, he immediately took charge, speaking with the gunman and calming the hostages. Unbeknownst to him, high above Earth's atmosphere, a Crixalor surveillance drone, redirected by Varkas, was recording every moment. Back at their base, Varkas and Drass monitored both the situation on the ground and the reactions from their commanders watching from space. The tension was palpable. This demonstration would either convince their superiors of humanity's unique value or could provoke a disastrous misunderstanding. Agent Michaels, having grown increasingly suspicious of Varkas and Drass, chose this day to confront them. She arrived at the farmhouse unexpectedly, just as the simulation reached its climax. "I know there's more to you than you've let on," she stated firmly, stepping inside and catching them amidst their surveillance setup. Varkas faced her squarely, knowing this moment could not be avoided. "You're right, Agent Michaels. We're not here to cause harm. We're here to prove a point about humanity's capacity for peace and leadership." As he spoke, on the screens behind him, Carter successfully negotiated the release of hostages, his demeanor embodying calm and authoritative peacekeeping. Michaels watched, her initial skepticism giving way to curiosity. "What is this?" she asked, pointing to the screens. "It's a test, not just for us, but for my people watching us. We're showing them that what makes humans powerful isn't something that can be weaponized. It's their ability to resolve conflict, to lead without force," Varkas explained. Meanwhile, the response from Crixalor was coming through. The commanders were initially confused, then increasingly interested. The demonstration of nonviolent conflict resolution was something alien to their own militaristic strategies. Just as Varkas began to hope for a positive outcome, the situation escalated. The Crixalor military, misinterpreting the ongoing Earth scenario as a genuine hostage crisis, possibly orchestrated by Earth governments as a trap for their spy, launched a small strike force towards Earth to extract their operatives and retaliate. Varkas received the warning on his communicator, and his heart sank. "They're coming to intervene. They think this is an attack, not a demonstration," he told Drass and Michaels urgently. Without hesitation, Varkas decided to intercept his own people. "I must stop them. If they see this as Earth's aggression, it could lead to war. Agent Michaels, you've seen what we're trying to do. Help us stop this." Michaels, now understanding the stakes, nodded. "I'll help. What do you need?" "Keep the situation here stable. I'll go up and explain," Varkas resolved. With Drass providing technical support, Varkas used their remaining cloaked shuttle to meet the incoming Crixalor strike force in orbit. It was a risky move. Approaching them directly could be seen as treason, or worse, a confirmation of Earth's hostile intentions. As he approached the Crixalor ships, Varkas opened communications, broadcasting the video of Carter's successful peaceful resolution. "This is what I wanted you to see. Humanity's potential for peace. We must not destroy what we do not understand," he pleaded. The standoff was tense, with the Crixalor commanders aboard the strike ships watching the broadcast intently. Finally, the lead ship responded. "We are standing down, Operative Varkas. Return to discuss your findings." Relieved, but wary, Varkas headed back to Earth, hopeful that his actions had averted a disastrous conflict and would lead to a new understanding between Crixalor and Earth. Varkas guided the shuttle back to the surface of Earth with a sense of cautious optimism. The Crixalor strike force had stood down, and the immediate threat of an interstellar conflict had been averted, but he knew the situation was still precarious. There would be repercussions for his actions, and his superiors would demand answers. As the shuttle touched down near the farmhouse, Varkas stepped out to find Agent Michaels and Drass waiting for him, their faces a mixture of relief and anxiety. "Did it work?" Drass asked, his voice tight with anticipation. "They stood down," Varkas confirmed, but his tone was measured. "For now. They want a full report back on Crixalor. My superiors need to understand what we've seen here, and more importantly, what it means." Agent Michaels crossed her arms, her gaze steady. "And what exactly is your plan now? You've stopped a potential disaster, but what comes next?" Varkas looked out over the quiet town, his thoughts turning to the people he had observed, the potential he had witnessed in John Carter and others like him. "We need to ensure that Earth is seen as a partner, not a threat. My people need to understand that the power of humanity is in their capacity for peace, not just their potential for war. I'm going to request that Crixalor opens a dialogue with Earth, starting with us as intermediaries." Michaels raised an eyebrow. "You think they'll go for that, after everything?" Varkas met her gaze, unwavering. "It's the only way to prevent future conflicts. We've shown them what humanity is capable of. Now we need to build on that foundation." Drass nodded in agreement. "We've seen enough here to know that Earth is different from the other worlds we've encountered. If we can make our leaders see that, there might be hope for a peaceful coexistence. Agent Michaels considered this for a moment before nodding slowly. I'll do what I can on my end. If this is going to work, we'll need to manage how the public and the government respond to the idea of alien contact. It's not going to be easy. No, it won't, Varkas agreed. But it's necessary. The alternative is unthinkable. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Varkas and Drass worked together to compile their findings into a comprehensive report for their superiors, emphasizing the importance of viewing Earth as a potential ally rather than an enemy. They included footage of John Carter's actions, the peaceful resolution of the staged crisis, and their observations of human culture, leadership, and resilience. At the same time, Agent Michaels began laying the groundwork for a controlled disclosure of the situation to key government officials. She knew that revealing the full truth too quickly could cause panic, but with careful management, she believed they could guide Earth's leaders toward a more open and cooperative stance. Finally, the day came for Varkas to send his report back to Crixalor. As he prepared to transmit the data, he felt a heavy weight settle on his shoulders. This moment would determine not just his future, but potentially the future of both their worlds. He turned to Drass, who stood by his side, and Agent Michaels, who watched from a distance. "Are we ready?" Drass nodded, his expression serious. "As ready as we'll ever be." Varkas took a deep breath and activated the transmitter. The report, along with a personal plea for peaceful relations, was sent hurtling across the galaxy to Crixalor. Now, all they could do was wait. Hours turned into days, each one stretching out with unbearable tension. Then, finally, a response came through. Varkas opened the message, reading the words with a mixture of hope and fear. The Crixalor High Command had reviewed the report and had come to a decision. They were intrigued by the findings and agreed that Earth represented something unique, something worth exploring further. However, they were cautious and skeptical, aware that this could be a ploy or a misunderstanding. They authorized Varkas to initiate preliminary discussions with Earth's leadership, but under strict supervision. "It's not a definitive answer, but it's a start," Varkas said, looking up from the message with a small smile. "They're willing to listen." Agent Michaels allowed herself a rare smile. "That's more than I expected. Looks like we have a lot of work ahead of us." Varkas nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility but also a new sense of purpose. "This is just the beginning. We have the chance to build something new, something that could benefit both our worlds. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take trust." Drass clapped him on the shoulder. "Then let's make sure we do it right. We've come this far. No turning back now." Together, the three of them, an alien warrior, a human agent, and a fellow Crixalor operative, stood on the brink of a new era. The journey ahead would be challenging, fraught with obstacles and uncertainties. But for the first time, Varkas felt that peace was not just a distant dream, but a real possibility. As they began to plan their next steps, Varkas looked out over the horizon, where the sun was beginning to set. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, a sight that had become strangely comforting to him during his time on Earth. This planet, this people, they had shown him a different way to live, to fight, and to lead. And now it was his duty to protect that, to ensure that the future they were building would be one of cooperation, understanding, and lasting peace. The real weapon, called human, wasn't something to be feared or conquered. It was something to be embraced. And in that realization, Varkas found a new purpose, one that he was ready to dedicate his life to.